Hello friends, welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by The Guild. I am Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage. First rumor of the day, do the Cowboys have the best fans in the NFL? I'm going to give this one 4 stars. I don't feel like upsetting you guys today. I'm sure we'll get to that plenty of times even later in the show or later on in the year. But there was a study done by Emory University that ranked the Cowboys as the #1 fan base in the NFL. There were 3 categories. There was fans, social, and road equity. A lot of it tied to how much fans spend on their team, how much they travel to road games, how active they are in social media. Cowboys were #1 in all but the social media one, where they were #2. They beat out teams like the Steelers, the Patriots, the Giants, and the Philadelphia Eagles as well. It's an easy 4-star for me. I love you guys. Never change, even though we don't always agree on every single topic. There were your top 5. Cowboys, Patriots, Eagles, Giants, and the Steelers there at number 5. Next up, is Travis Frederick not a top 100 player in the NFL? Oh, this is fake news. He's totally a top 100 guy. Look, I told myself we weren't going to rant too much on the NFL top 100 list. This is the last time we'll mention it, at least for this year. NFL did not rank Frederick in the top 100 players because why does that make any sense? He is the best center in the NFL, and he's one of the best offensive linemen in the entire NFL. As for why the top 100 list never makes any sense at all, I mean, Carson Wentz was number 3. Is it a ranking of last year, this year? It doesn't ever make any sense, and they far too often ignore offensive linemen. But we here at the Cowboys Report, presented by The Guild, will always tell it to you like it is, and Frederick is definitely a top 100 guy. We'll stick on the offensive line here. Could Cam Fleming start over La'el Collins? I'm going to have back-to-back fake newses here, folks, because this also makes no sense. So the Eagles Wire has been doing their rankings of each individual position group among the NFC East teams, and they put Cam Fleming over La'el Collins and then doubled down on that mistake by saying that Cam Fleming was brought in to start over La'el Collins, which I'm sure, as you Cowboys fans know, that's just not right. Fleming is the team's swing tackle. La'el Collins is your starting right tackle. Cowboys very pleased by how he ended the season. Yeah, it was a bit of a rough start early on, but he is going to be your right tackle. And oh, by the way, one of the arguments as to why Collins was going to get benched by Fleming was the report pre-draft that Fleming could start at right tackle and Collins could go inside to guard. That's not going to happen with Connor Williams locked in as your left guard. That is your starting lineup. But it made me think, who is the best offensive lineman on the Cowboys? Is it Tyron Smith, Frederick, or Zach Martin? If you think it's Collins or Connor Williams, give me a wow face there. I'll preface it by saying I don't think there's a bad answer up there. I will take Zach Martin, the guard, over the center, and because Tyron, I am just a little bit concerned about his injury history as of late. Back injuries don't tend to go away, so I'll go Zach Martin there, but there really is no wrong answer. Number 4, is Randy Gregory going to return? I'm going to give this one 3 stars, sticking with that one that I do think he'll be back, even though it's not quite locked in stone. Here's your main update for you. Todd Archer has confirmed that the Cowboys expect to get word of Gregory's status from the NFL around training camp, and that fits in with the 60 days to make a decision timeline, even though we know that is more of a guideline, not a firm and fast rule there. But it does seem likely that we'll hear from Gregory and his status around training camp, and the expectation is from the Cowboys and his own camp that Gregory will be cleared to return. So let me know how many sacks you think Gregory will have this year. I've seen as high as 10 from some of you guys in the comments section. I think that's a little bit optimistic, and by a little I mean a lot optimistic for a player that hasn't hardly played since 2015. So I'll take the under on the over-under for 5. Number 5, speaking of 5s, does Dak Prescott have a new agent? 4 stars on this one. Now, on last week's show, I mentioned that Dak had indicated he could be willing to take a team-friendly deal. We gave that one 2 stars. I might want to bop it down to 1 star now because Prescott's gone out and hired Todd France of CAA, kind of one of the major agencies out there for the NFL. And this is a clear sign that Prescott wants a pretty significant contract. Todd France, his agency, by the way, CAA, I will point out, just got Matt Ryan his massive new contract. So I think for the Cowboys, and I know that this is their plan, they plan to pay Dak Prescott what they have to, what the market rate is for a quarterback, $30 million for Matt Ryan, $28 million for Kirk, $27 plus for Jimmy G, and $27 for Stafford. That's kind of the baseline on any discussion. Now, maybe Dak takes a little bit less, but once his new contract is up after this coming season. Or he's not up, but eligible to be extended, I should say. It's not up for a while. You could see him have a massive, massive deal, which does give me concern because do you want to invest all of that money in a quarterback? It's tough to build a true deep roster when you're paying so much to one individual player, but that's how the NFL is going these days. Number 6 is a Dez Bryant return, only just a dream. I'm going to give this one 4 stars as well. Jalen Smith, this is all your fault, even though I love you. Tweeted out, wow, I had the craziest dream last night. Tagged Dez Bryant, was back on the squad before the year started. Dez Bryant then retweeted it, and everyone got excited like, oh, maybe Jalen knows something. Maybe this means that Dez is going to come back. No, it's not going to happen. Jalen also confirmed in a different interview that, yeah, he was just having some fun with the fans and interacting with them. Guys, Dez is not going to come back. But I do want to know if you would want Dez Bryant back on the Cowboys. I know some of you do, some of you don't. Still is kind of a bit divisive, which makes sense. It is Dez Bryant after all. I think the Cowboys in reality have totally moved on from Dez, and Dez has moved on from Dallas, so do not expect any reunion anytime soon. We do have some updates for you on Earl Thomas, but first, a word from our sponsor, The Guild. So will the Cowboys revisit an Earl Thomas trade? Obviously, of course, they talked during the NFL draft, the Cowboys and the Seahawks. That deal, of course, did not happen. But will they revisit it? I'll give it 3 stars. And the Cowboys, I think pretty clearly, have a strong interest in Earl Thomas. We know Earl Thomas likes the Cowboys. And we know that Earl Thomas continues to hold out as he wants a big, fat, new contract from the Seattle Seahawks. Mike Fisher says that the two sides will talk, maybe closer to actual training camp, assuming this holdout does continue to go on. But does that mean a trade will actually happen between Earl Thomas and the Dallas Cowboys? Before we get to that, I want to know if you even want the Cowboys to swing a trade. I know some of you guys say, nah, don't pay the 29-year-old the big money he's demanding and we'll get from somebody out there. Stick with the young guys, keep your draft picks. Let me know which side you're on, and maybe throw in why in the comments section. But as for a potential trade, I'm still going to give it just the 1 star. The update here for you guys coming in from Mike Fisher is that he was told that Thomas will be in somebody's camp at the end of July. Maybe the Cowboys, maybe the Seahawks, maybe it's a whole different team. But he says he'll be in somebody's camp, which to me makes it seem like Thomas will indeed end that holdout. I think that actually hurts the Cowboys' chances of landing a trade. If a trade does go down, this is kind of what Fisher suggests is the general framework. Earl Thomas in exchange for a 2nd-round pick. Would you guys make that trade? I'll be honest, I'm a little bit hesitant to move a 2nd-round selection because you don't know how high that's going to be. What happens if the Cowboys are riddled by injuries? Then all of a sudden you're paying a top 40 pick for a safety you have to pay big, big money to as well. I would try like hell to get a 3rd-rounder, but I don't think Seattle would accept that. That's also why I still think it's a 1-star rumor. I would be a little bit surprised if the deal did go down. It's certainly possible, but I'm not quite buying it at this time. Folks, if you're a fan of the Cowboys Report, subscribe to our brand new Cowboys Report YouTube channel at chatsports.com/CowboysTV. All the best Cowboys coverage all in one spot. That URL, chatsports.com/CowboysTV, will take you right into the subscribe page for the YouTube channel. One last rumor then. How about a Terrence Williams trade? I know some of you guys would love this. I'll give it just the 1 star because technically I guess anything could happen. 24/7 Sports had a list of a player from each team that could be traded, and they picked Terrence Williams, which would be cool and all because you get that money off the books, but who would actually trade for Terrence Williams? Who wants a guy coming off a foot injury and had an arrest around a DUI, even though it wasn't actually a DUI, it was for public intoxication, but who wants to take that on right now? I don't think anyone does, but we had 2 fake newses earlier, and we saw guys like Cameron Irving actually get traded, so I'll give it just the 1 star for now. All right, folks, I am Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage, and tweet me any questions around the Cowboys or the NFL you guys have. Next up, we'll take you through some position battles, this time on defense for the Dallas Cowboys, and of course, we'll start on the interior of the defensive line there. We'll go to defensive tackle here. David Irving, Malik Collins, Jihad Ward, those guys are locks. They are not going to go anywhere for the Cowboys. But then there's a big battle elsewhere. Brian Price, Dayton Jones, Richard Ashley, guys like Lewis Neal, Antoine Woods, and Daniel Ross. They are all battling for 1, 2, I don't think 3, but so probably 1 or 2 spots there. So we'll start off with Brian Price. And of the guys that we're going to discuss here in depth, Price, Jones, and Ash in particular, I feel most confident that he will find a way to nab a spot on the roster. He served as a nose guard last year for Dallas after getting acquired via a trade with the Green Bay Packers, and he was exclusive rights free agent, signed a very cheap 2-year deal with no guaranteed money. He is one of the few actual true one techniques, those nose guards on the Cowboys roster. I think he's the most likely guy to make it. And then the guy I have the most potential, or at least I think has the most potential, is a guy named Dayton Jones, who joined the team late last year, and I thought was actually pretty good in very limited snaps. Now, former first-round pick by the Packers, spent time with the Vikings as well, didn't make that roster, showed some ability late in the year as a DT, can play some defensive end as well, can play almost every spot on the defensive line, even though he's not quite the true impact guy you want out of a former first-round pick. But I like what he brings. He could be a surprise player to make a bit of an impact with David Irving out with a suspension and Lee Collins also banged up. And then one more guy I want to discuss in depth here is Richard Ash. He actually made some pretty nice plays on film. I noticed him quite a bit when I was going back and watching the Xavier Woods film in particular. I think that's a pretty promising sign for him. But he's a nose guard that offers nothing in the passing game. I think he has to beat out Brian Price, and I don't know if he'll actually be able to pull that off. So depth chart here, my projections. Obviously, David Irving, Malik Collins, Jed Ward, they're all going to make it. Those are your top 3 guys. I think Brian Price is your next player, and then Dayton Jones secures that last defensive tackle spot. That's 5 guys, though we'll call it 4 since David Irving will be suspended to start the season. Richard Ash, Lewis Neal, Antoine Woods, Daniel Ross, all those guys get cut. So, folks, should the Cowboys add another DT? I think that they absolutely should, because I just don't think there's enough bodies at the DT spot now. I would love to get a guy like a Jonathan Hankins. I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Cowboys. The Cowboys seem to have very little interest right now, so let me know in the comment section what you think. Defensive end then, DeMarcus Lawrence. Well, he's a lock, obviously. Tyrone Crawford, he's locked up as well. Charlton, Armstrong, those guys aren't getting cut. So those are your 4. We'll call them locks if they keep Tyrone Crawford. That leaves, and does it actually leave any spots? Because if Randy Gregory comes back, that's 5 defensive ends. And this is where the David Irving suspension, I think, really impacts the roster. Charles Tapper, Coney Lee might not have made it. Now maybe there's spot for one of those players to make the 53-man roster, at least until David Irving comes back from his suspension. So we'll start with Charles Tapper, a former 4th-round pick out of Oklahoma, taken before Dak Prescott was selected, has hardly played in the NFL. Tapper has played just 2 games because of injuries, had a concussion during OTAs. Now, how you suffer one of those in OTAs, I'm not really sure, but he did come back. The flashes have been there, but Tapper has to actually stay healthy. And, by the way, he could be a potential trade candidate for the Cowboys if Coney Ely is as good as the Cowboys think he can be. Now, don't worry too much about the stats from last year. He was miscast in the Jets' defensive scheme, but he can play defensive end and defensive tackle. And with David Irving suspended, I think that's a big thing. We know how much the Cowboys love their positional flex. Well, Coney Ely offers that flex as a DT and defensive end. I think that's why Ely, at least as of right now, would be the front runner in my eyes to make the roster over Charles Tapper. So let me know, folks, with that reaction poll. Give me a heart for a like for Tapper, or heart for Tapper, excuse me, a like for Coney Ely, a laughy face for both, and a wow face for neither. I think one of them makes it. I also think that, of course, Randy Gregory makes the roster, so you carry 6 defensive ends. Obviously, Tank and Crawford are your starters. Taco, Armstrong, and Gregory are kind of your key backups there. Those are your top 5 guys. If Gregory's reinstated, those guys are locks. And then you have Coney Ely. I think that he makes the roster as a backup. Tapper I'll put on the roster bubble for now. He could also be a trade candidate. Keep an eye on that one for Tapper there. If not, I think he ends up getting cut. Maybe Dallas should try to sneak him onto the practice squad as well. Folks, today's show is brought to you by The Guild. Visit stayguild.com for 15% off your next stay. Kind of like a luxury Airbnb. Use that promo code CHATSPORTS and you'll get 15% off when you visit Austin, Dallas, and a whole bunch of other cities when you stay with The Guild. Let's move now to the linebacker spot. And yeah, it was a bit of a battle, I guess, for that last spot, but I am more focused on the nickel linebacker role. Now, obviously, Jalen Smith is going to make the roster, same with Van Der Esch. But my question is, when the Cowboys move to a 2-linebacker set, who is on the field? Is it Jalen Smith? Is it Leighton Van Der Esch? So we'll start here with Jalen Smith. And I really like what he brings to the roster in terms of being not just a linebacker. He can come off the edge and blitz a little bit as well. He's got some edge rushing ability. He's got some coverage ability as well. So Jalen brings you maybe a little bit more as of right now than Leighton Vander Esch does. He was much better down the stretch last year and can serve as a Sam linebacker in the base packages, can blitz some as almost an extra edge rusher if the Cowboys want to get creative on third downs as well. The coverage I thought was fine last year, and he looked better in terms of moving during OTAs and minicamp. That's a promising sign for me in terms of Jalen Smith being a potential nickel linebacker. But the Cowboys did spend a first-round pick on Leighton Vander Esch. Now, I think as of right now, he is behind Jalen Smith, even behind a guy like Joe Thomas right now, or Justin March-Lillard, because he missed minicamp and a good portion of OTAs with an ankle injury. The Cowboys view him as a middle linebacker and in base packages when they use the 3 linebacker sets. But in nickel packages, maybe you see Jalen Smith start the year and Vander Esch takes over more and more as the year goes on. But I'll do this in reality here. You're probably not going to have just one guy there. You'll probably have Sean Lee in the field as often as possible. Jalen comes in sometimes, Vander Esch on other packages. I'd say they rotate for a good portion of the year. They're both very talented players. That'll set them up, and the Cowboys up for more success throughout the season. But let me know who you think will have more tackles. Give me a heart for Jalen and a like for Leighton Vander Esch. I'll lean toward Jalen Smith, but I think it'll be a very close battle. I think both those guys will be near the top of the Cowboys in terms of tackles. If it's your first time watching the show, folks, be sure to subscribe to our brand new Cowboys Report only YouTube channel at chatsports.com/CowboysTV. All the coverage you could want in one spot. The secondary now, and my big question mark at cornerback is, who will be the number 5 guy? Will it be a Marquez White, who is a perfect fit for the Chris Richard scheme and spent last year on the Cowboys practice squad for being a 6th-round pick out of Florida State? I think he is the front runner right now because of his size, but he's also been with a guy like Duke Thomas. He was more or less stashed last year on IR, was pretty good in the preseason, might have actually made the roster if it came down to it, but he doesn't have the ideal size for Chris Richard's defense. That could be the deal breaker as the Cowboys search for that number 5 cornerback role, and I doubt they end up carrying 6th. And there are some undrafted free agents this year. There's Xavier Woods out of Middle Tennessee, and again, he fits the Richard mold at cornerback. He's big and he's long and he's lanky, not the fastest guy necessarily either. There's also Donovan Olumba out of Portland State. Again, can play cornerback or safety based on his size and fits that mold at cornerback as a big, long, lanky guy who's going to do a lot for you. So my projection as we sit right now, obviously you've got your locks there. Cheeto, Byron, Jordan, Anthony Brown, those guys are making the roster. For now, I will give the edge to Marquez White, but this will be a true battle throughout the preseason. White and Thomas, Ward, and Olumba, all 4 of those guys have a real chance to make the roster. As for Cam Kelly, well, he's been moved back to safety, so he does not count. So, folks, let me know who you think will be the Cowboys' number 5 cornerback this year. Give me a heart for Marquez White, a like for Duke Thomas, a laughing face for Xavier Woods, and a wow face for Donovan Olumba. On to safeties now, namely, how are they going to break down the snap counts? Jeff Heath is the first guy we'll discuss here. He played the most snaps of any Cowboys safety last year, almost by a significant margin, because Byron Jones is now at cornerback. Heath makes a lot of plays for the Cowboys. He's a big playmaker at times, also gets beat far too often. Of course, there's the Oakland game where he knocked the ball out of Derek Carr's hands, kept the Cowboys season alive there. Heath, I think, as the Cowboys sit right now, is the guy that they trust the most. He is their number 1 safety, even though I know some of you guys don't feel the same way. He's just too inconsistent for my blood. As for Xavier Woods, he's the next guy up. I think he's the number 2 safety right now. Most of them, or I should say Heath and Woods, both played mostly free safety when, Woods wasn't at the slot cornerback spot. But he is lined to start this year as a starting safety. I like what Woods brings upside-wise. I think he'll be the number 2 guy with Heath getting those snaps out of anybody. Maybe sometimes on 3rd and short and other sub-packages when it's a rundown, obviously. You could see Dallas pull Xavier Woods, leave him more for passing downs, and then bring in Kevon Frazier and have him be kind of your box safety, your strong safety guy that does a lot of work, almost as a hybrid linebacker at times. I worry about Frazier in coverage, but I think he's a good box safety. I know Richard might compare him to Cam Chancellor at some point. He's not that type of talent level, but he can be that type of player, a box safety who's very good at what he does in stopping the run. So your top 3 guys in some order are going to be Heath, Frazier, and Woods. But let me know who you think is the Cowboys' best safety. If I'm a betting man, and I am, I'd bet that most of you guys pick Xavier Woods out there. I think he can be the best safety, but as of right now, he is the one I trust the most because I just want to see more of Xavier Woods. But by the end of the year, I do think it will indeed be Xavier Woods as the Cowboys' best safety. All right, folks, I'm Tom Downey. Follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage. If you have any questions, tweet me at WhatGoingDowney. And if you missed anything, don't worry. We'll play it again here in just a second. Until then, we'll see you next time.